Okay, I thought it would be a little fun to show my processing steps on one of the photos that I took at our meetup. And so I'm going to do all this in Lightroom today. Usually when I first import my pictures, I have a preset that I made a while back. And it does apply some settings that I like to use on most of my pictures, just to start, and then I adjust them from there. So as we go through this, I'll tell you which of those settings I use in my preset. But I didn't include any of those here. This is just from scratch. What I'm going to start with is my color. I'm going to just add a touch of warmth to this one. I thought it was a little bit too blue. There we go. And then I'm going to mess with the exposures and the lights, which is kind of the most important part of this. And what I'll do is focus on the histogram, as this is really what's important and it tells me what's going on. As you could see here, the picture is very dark. A lot of the colors, a lot of the lights are over here on this side, and there's nothing over here. So that tells me my exposure was too low. And as we all know who were there, it was very dark down under those trees. And so I just didn't have enough light. So I'm going to increase my exposure just a little bit. Whoa, that might be too much. Now I don't need to recover anything because there are no blown out highlights, which you would be able to see if there were lines here. I don't know that I need to fill anything because everything's pretty well lit at this point that I want to be lit. But it is too light. Now I don't have enough blacks. And to me, the blacks are what defines the picture. And if the picture does not have enough blacks, then most of the time, some should be added. Not all the time. And to me, this is the best part of this whole thing. I love watching the picture just form itself. Right there. Right at that point where it meets. That's a good level of blacks a lot of the time. And then later I'll add a little bit more in the curves. But for now, I'm going to move on. I don't usually mess with brightness and contrast in Lightroom. But I almost always add clarity, and that's one of my presets. I think my preset's somewhere around here. So here's the normal. Here's none. So that looks pretty good. And another preset is just a touch of vibrance. It's not too much. I usually don't mess with saturation because I could do that in Photoshop. And it depends on the picture. That's certainly enough color. I don't need any more. So it's not part of my presets, but after I get into the picture, a lot of time I will add some lights. Oops, maybe not that much. And then I'll add some darks. Look at that. That's a nice difference. Here, let me turn that off right here. See the difference? It just pops. I love curve. Okay. This is also a great section. I use this to specifically adjust each of these colors, both the saturation and the luminance. What I use a lot is the blue. If I have a sky in the picture, I will add a little saturation and make it a little darker, and it really makes almost every sky pop. And similarly, when I'm working on trees or grass, a lot of times I find there's too much yellow, and I'll reduce the yellow. I think greens look a little better without that much yellow. There, well, maybe that's too much here, so let's see. You might not be able to see too much, but I like it. Split toning is really, really cool, but not in this picture. Now the last thing I'm going to do in Lightroom is I'm going to add some sharpening. Too much. That might be good. One of the coolest things about Lightroom is that you can mask the sharpening. You press the Alt button. Now watch this. All the black means that the sharpening is being hidden. And this works good with skies too, because you don't want a sharp sky. Okay. And then I'll add a little noise reduction, which works really good in Lightroom 3. Okay. So in my opinion, that's it. Now let's look at the before. See how boring that is now? And the after. Look at that. That's a totally different picture. before and after. And that's it.